The British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Andrew Pocock, has once again cleared the air on the controversy surrounding a proposed UK government bond on visa applicants from some countries, including Nigeria. Mr. Pocock also explained that there are plans to influence the inflow of more foreign direct investments from British companies into Nigeria. He made these statements in Lagos today during the closing bell ceremony at the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
On the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
Just after a live interview with Channels Television via Skype at the Stock Exchange today, the British High Commissioner Andrew Pocock explained his government's area of interest in the Nigerian economy.
We have a very wide range of interest. We have interest in the extractive industries, particularly hydrocarbons, but by no means exclusively. We have interest in manufacturing, and there are a number of British companies long established here, some of them quoted on the Stock Exchange, that are looking to expand their activities. And thirdly, we're looking to move up the value chain into the services sector of the Nigerian economy, into legal services, financial sector, public-private partnerships. There's a great range of things in which British companies have expertise and in which the City of London has a particular weight and experience. And we're looking to make sure that British companies come down, look at this Nigerian market and make an assessment based on what they see and not just on what they hear from a distance.
After ringing the closing bell, Mr. Pocock spoke to journalists on the position of the UK on visa bonds for applicants from Nigeria.
No Nigerian will ever be asked to pay £3,000 for a British visa, so it has nothing to do with that. Secondly, it is not a policy yet, it hasn't been decided, and if it is decided, it will apply to only a very tiny fraction of the 150,000 Nigerians who apply for a British visa every year. So the effect, even if it becomes British policy, which is not yet, the effect will be very limited. And the 125,000 Nigerians who visit the UK legally every year will see only a tiny fraction impacted by this.
The British High Commissioner, who is on his first assignment to Africa, expressed optimism on the Nigerian economy, adding that the security challenges are not overwhelming for multinational businesses.
Well, it's day 87 of the ASUU Strike, and some concerned professionals have called on the government to pay attention to basic and technical education in the country. These professionals say too much attention is being devoted to the strike by the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian universities, while other aspects of the sector, which have far-reaching challenges and impacts on the nation, are allowed to suffer. They propose that a constructive framework be evolved to address the educational crisis in the country.
Come October 1, Nigeria will celebrate 53 years of independence. On the same day, the recent strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, will be 90 days old. This was the premise upon which these concerned professionals gathered to discuss the state of the education system in the country and the crisis rocking the sector, which they say must be brought to an end.
By the way, keeping young kids at home for 90 days is a national security challenge. Deviant behavior rises. Lots of young kids, for instance, lots of young girls will get avoidable pregnancy. Lots of young kids are going to get avoidable STDs because they are not otherwise engaged. We're not providing them with leisure, we're not providing them with instruction, we're not providing them with values. Their teachers are unemployed, and there is going to be a problem.
On another note, the group believe that the ASUU strike appears to be taking a lot of attention away from other aspects of education, which they say require much more intervention than the universities.
The ASUU, they have taken over the entire space for policy formulation for education. Because every year you're having negotiations for strike, negotiations for conditions of service. So there are major governance issues around tertiary education that we must come up with solutions that will bring the issue of strike to an end.
Gathered round this table, these professionals are determined that a change be brought to the education sector, and they say that while more funding is required, the private sector must partner with government to lessen the burden on government. They propose that all Nigerians take more interest in the sector, as indifference is no longer an option. Omelogo Nadi Channels Television News.
About 37% of individuals who have benefited from the annual Chike Okoli free medicals were diagnosed with cardiovascular-related diseases. At the 7th edition of the event organized by the Chike Okoli Foundation to mark this year's World Heart Day, the doctor in charge, Abimbola Oshinawo, advised that routine medical checks be carried out in order to save lives and resources. The program coordinator of the Chike Okoli Foundation raised concerns about cardiovascular-related diseases, especially in children.
We find out from most of these students, these little children, that once they are back from school, they will give them things to go and carry to hawk around the street, with barely eating good food, take soft drinks, things that have a lot of sugar, a lot of cholesterol, no proper nutrition food for them to eat. And that is one of those things that I think that causes a lack of exercise also for most of these children that are obese. You find out that we are in the fast age now. You find out that once they come back from home, from school, computer game, no proper exercise.
The Federal Executive Council has approved contracts worth over 29 billion naira for infrastructure development in the Federal Capital Territory. The projects include provision of potable water in the Asokoro extension and the dualization of the Usuma-Gurara Dam Road, all in the FCT. The Minister of the FCT, who briefed State House correspondents after the Council meeting, explained that the approvals are aimed at making the Federal Capital Territory habitable for the residents. State House correspondent Chukuma Onwekusi has the story.
Infrastructure development and service delivery in the Federal Capital Territory took center stage in this week's Federal Executive Council meeting. Government approved the provision of water in Asokoro extension to the tune of 1.7 billion naira and the dualization of the lower Usuma-Gurara Dam Road project. The meeting, presided over by Vice President Namadi Sambo in the absence of President Goodluck Jonathan, had in attendance just about 14 ministers, and the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory said that this did not in any way diminish deliberations. He expatiates first on the need for water in Dallas and Sunrise Estates, while the Minister of Mines and Steel Development gave technical insight on the need for water in that area.
We are just living up to our obligations. Buildings are already coming up there. We are accessing private investment to the tune of 100 billion naira there, and therefore it is not too much when government looked inward and said it is necessary to complement those infrastructure provision with the supply of water to the tune of 1.7 billion naira.
Like we know, the design of the federal capital itself is for a certain specific number of people. And this number of people is normally accompanied with water provision, power provision, and sewers and so on.
The dualization of the lower Usuma Dam Road project was also approved. The reason is because it provides an alternative route to the northwestern part of the country. The project will cost 28 billion naira.
For us, it is an interstate road, and it will help helping to decongest our major arterial route A2, with part of which from Abuja to Kaduna. And it will help to reduce travel times for Nigerians who will make use of this road from Kaduna State to Abuja.
The Federal Executive Council believes that the approvals will make the Federal Capital Territory a lot better and more habitable for the Nigerian people. Chukuma Onwekusi, Channels Television News.
First Bank, truly the first.
Well, let's find out what's happening in the world of business. Here's Joke Rogers.
Thank you, Bimbo. The President has renewed his commitment in developing a framework for the post-2015 Millennium Development Goals. At a meeting with the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon in New York, President Goodluck Jonathan said despite the huge funds spent by Nigeria on realizing the goals, more is still required. In his comments, the UN chief asked global leaders to ensure that the target year set to achieve the Millennium Development Goals, that's 2015, it does not shift. He said it's also the same year in which the international community will adopt a new development agenda. Another high-profile guest was welcomed to the trading floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange today. The British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Andrew Pocock, is visiting the local bourse for the first time since his appointment, and he had the privilege of ringing the closing bell, as you saw there. He assured dealing members that more British companies would be listing on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Mr. Pocock also commended the NSE management on efforts to recover from the global recession and advised that investors' education be given more attention. Well, Mr. Pocock's verdict marked a good turn at the local bourse. It bounced back from previous losses by 0.24%. Here's Bisikoka with details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Reports. Nigeria's bourse recorded an upturn in midweek's trading session as it bounced back from a string of losses. The all-share index jumped 0.24%, closing at 36,143.55 with a market capitalization of 11.48 trillion naira. Food giant Nestle gained 19 naira 82 kobo to lead the price advances, which include Guinness and Okomu oil. Meanwhile, Chemical and Allied Products PLC, Mobile and UACN found themselves as the top losers for this session. At the end of the session, volume came in at 294.64 million units, valued at 2.6 billion naira in over 4,000 deals. And that's a wrap on the Stock Market Reports. I am BC Koka.
More figures this time at the currencies market, where the naira closed firmer at the interbank today, strengthening against the dollar at 160.05. Nigeria's currency finished strong after the central bank raised dollar supply at its official window to 400 million on Wednesday in a bid to clear a backlog of demand and shore up the naira. However, traders say the big push for the naira came from dollar sales by the NNPC, which took it to 159.2 to the dollar before it closed at 160.05. Wednesday's close was firmer than the 160.6 to the dollar at which it closed the previous day. And that's it on Business News. On the news at 10, we'll leave you with those global markets before Bimbo returns with the rest of the news.